Tuesday, and it's time for the next in the series of the Shadows of Christ. This week, I've chosen the story of Moses out of Hebrews and Hebrews chapter 11, for those of you who might be new and not familiar with the series. But what I like about Moses, this happens to be my second most favorite shadow story out of this entire list of people in Hebrews chapter 11. My first favorite, of course, is Joseph. Joseph's story is so beautiful, it's seamless, and it really does represent the life and work of Jesus Christ and tells the gospel of the redemption of the world, where God literally takes possession of all the nations of the world, and they are blessed. In Moses' story, we see these mini stories more like vignette type stories. And so there are types and shadows that shift and change throughout the story of Moses. And so let's just start with what Hebrews had to say about Moses and his life. Now, the story of Moses in Hebrews chapter 11 starts in verse 23. And verse 23 says, "By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment." So you see here, Moses' life starts out very much like Jesus' life. The king ordered children of the Hebrews to be killed. And in similar fashion, when Jesus was born, Herod ordered everyone 2 years old and under in Bethlehem to be killed. And so Jesus was hidden from King Herod, just like Moses was hidden from the Pharaoh. So they're starting out pretty much the same. One's hiding from Herod and he flees to Egypt. The other one is actually hiding from the king of Egypt himself. See, verse 24 sets the stage for something that I personally find very significant, and I'm going to see if I can get you to see it the way I do. In verse 24, it says, "By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter." See, this is important in setting up this relationship. Moses was taken in by Pharaoh's daughter after 3 months of being in hiding and raised in the house of Pharaoh. So he was like family, and he was raised as royalty. And when he became an adult, he realized he no longer wanted to be recognized as being of the house of Pharaoh, but rather to live as a Hebrew. This is, I think, significant in the later part of the story. And this last little vignette in this whole collage of Moses is probably my most favorite, because it's so symbolic. It brings back the words of Paul, where I think Paul himself thought a great deal about this. It says in verse 29, "By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians, essaying to do, were drowned." This has a lot in this little story right here. So why is there a lot in this little story? Well, remember I was telling you why it's important to note the relationship of Moses and Pharaoh. See, they were like family. Pharaoh loved Moses like family. And in his particular role in this story, this is actually a separate symbology that I see, where Pharaoh is actually taking on the role of God the Father. And it was because of his love that he tolerated the numerous attempts by Moses to talk to him and to plead for the release of um, the Hebrews. So Pharaoh tolerated Moses because of his love, and he tarried with him very long and suffered him a lot. And but at the same time, he was angry, and he was getting angrier and angrier and angrier. So then let's fast forward back to verse 29, where by faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians, essaying to do, were drowned. And let's see what's really playing out in this story. See, here we have all of the Hebrews, these tens of thousands of people, all of Israel, and they are all being led by Moses. But how did they get out of Egypt? How did they leave Egypt? Why did they leave Egypt? Well, it was because of Pharaoh. He let them go. Why did he let them go? Because he's playing the role of the father. And he didn't let them go, and he didn't set them free until his son died. Just like humanity was not set free until God's son died. Now we've got Herod Pharaoh. Now we got Pharaoh pursuing captivity, which is led captive, and he's got one final thing left. His anger is still on fire. And so here we have all of Israel being led through the sea between the waters, like I said last week, and the waters represent death and the grave, and they're being led through the grave. And so Pharaoh, in this one final act, he pursues after them with all of his army, with all of his wrath, with all of his anger. And all of Israel passed through to the other side, and all of Pharaoh's army, all of his wrath was swallowed up in the waters, dead. Just like God's wrath was swallowed up in the death and the burial and the grave of Jesus Christ. Forevermore. He would never be angry again. All of humanity, made it through, untouched, unscathed, to life on the other side through Jesus. Humanity led captive. Just like the Israelites were captive, all of humanity was captive to sin. They were led through death, through the grave, to the other side, reconciled to God for all eternity. No more wrath. All right, everybody, that's my take on the story of Moses, and I hope you have a good week. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, click the YouTube button on the bottom frame of this video, go to the YouTube channel, click subscribe, and then click a thumbs up for a like, or click thumbs down for a dislike. Either way, like it or don't, but please click, and have a good week.